Hi, you fellow sore fingerers, how are you? Hurting? Aching? Good, that means you're practicing. Let's tune the guitar. We start with what? Right, E, low E. Remember the notch, the tuning peg is right there. Low E. And A, I'll wait for you. There's an A. Can you hear it still? Mm-hmm, you can. A D. Too fast, I'll slow down. All right, D. G. A little flat there, a little flat G. A B. The weather does this, among other things. And a high E. All right. Now, in case you're not tuned, we are going to go through the other way, just fairly quickly. Not rushing, but just a little bit. Remember, you got your low E. You do have that, don't you? Okay. And then we're going to put our finger in the 5th fret of the E string and match that to the A string. That didn't match because I wasn't playing the right strings. I just did that to make you feel better. That's it. And then the same on the next string, 5th fret on the A to tune the D. That's a D. All right. 5th fret on the D to tune the G. 4th fret on the G to tune the B. Remember? All right. Whoops. I don't know, I seem to have 18 fingers on my right hand today. On one, now back to the 5th fret on the B to tune the high E. Okay, you should be in tune now, I think. Are you? Good. You are. I hope so. Let's begin by reviewing the new chord we learned last time, which was an E chord. You can take a look at it on the guitar. I shouldn't think you would have had too much trouble with that chord. It was the 1st finger on the 1st fret of the D string, the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and the next finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, the 3rd finger. Do you see why I was very adamant about you learning the names of the strings? Because I'm going to refer to them that way, and you really should know them. Remember that. Okay. And that was your E chord. Let's review the 2 songs we did, or parts of them anyway. Let's do the Chisholm Trail and Oh Susanna. We'll start with Chisholm Trail, and let's do that with a brush strum. All right? All right. That was Chisholm Trail. And now let's do what's it? Oh, Susanna, yes, I did remember. All right. We'll do that with the thumb strum. Oh, Susanna, come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. It's not a banjo. All right, I think that was pretty good. I think you're really keeping up. You have those 3 chords. Remember, we talked about other songs you can do with those. Well, I want to get into another subject now. Remember at the beginning, at the very beginning, I told you that there were just 2 rhythms in music. There was a 1-2 rhythm, and there was a 1-2-3 rhythm. Right, and with this, we've learned songs with both of those rhythms. We learned Skip to My Lou with a 1-2 and Down in the Valley with a 1-2-3. And then the 2 songs in the last lesson were both 1-2. Well, both songs in this lesson are going to be 1-2-3, and I think they're probably familiar songs to you. When you beat, when you conduct, actually, not beat, when a conductor conducts a 1-2 rhythm, he goes 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. All right. 1 is called the downbeat because it's down, isn't that logical? And 2 is called the upbeat because it's up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. And the 1 of every rhythm is always the strong one, the first beat. All right. In a 1-2-3 rhythm, A conductor will conduct 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Which is the upbeat? You know that 1 is the downbeat. Which is the upbeat? Very good. You're so smart. You get a gold star. 3 is the upbeat. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And you can start on any of those beats. In the two songs that we're dealing with today, the melody starts on the third beat, starts on the upbeat. The first song is On Top of Old Smoky. And if I were beating it, I would go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. On top of Old Smoky, my voice is so smoky too. All right. 1, 2. On top. All right. So we have to deal with that on the guitar. Let's now look at the words and do the same thing. We'll give ourselves 2 measures of introduction. That's called a measure. We'll know all about that later on. Just do it now. All right. Those words actually are in many other songs, interestingly enough. Those verses go from song to song. There's one called Walking and Talking, Walking Go I, for to meet my dear Willie, I'll see him by and by, and it goes on and on. Sad things happen, and then a false-hearted lover is worse than a thief. Same words, same verses, with different tunes. And it's always the same story of unrequited love. Very sad, very sad. Before we get too sad, let's do another sad song, cowboy song, which also begins on an upbeat. And this is The Streets of Laredo, which I know you know. We'll get into it in exactly the same way. This time we can just see the words right away. We don't have to practice this. We'll just do it. We're going to strum 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And on that 3, we'll say, as, and then we go on. I walked out in the streets of Laredo. All right? All right. I do think it's a good idea to go all the way through a song. I know you like to do it when I'm doing it, because I've heard from you that I know that. But when you're practicing, now if you get through that song several times between now and the next time we meet, you will know that A and E switch. I guarantee that, because that's what the whole song is, A and E and A and E and A and E. Okay, and I'm sure you'll do it very well. All right, I went to visit River City Music the other day to speak to Steve Stewart. I always want to call him Stewart Steve. No, Steve Stewart, who owns it. And we began talking a little bit about what happens when you go into a guitar store. You know, if you really don't know anything about guitars, and you're just walking into the store, and you know, what do you do? What do you ask for? Like if you want to watch this program and you don't have a guitar, you know, what do you do? And he showed me some guitars he had, and showed me some things, and we had a little conversation about those things. And so here's a film of the time that I went to visit him. It's true, there is something very nice about having your own guitar. And when you are ready to buy a guitar, the things you should check is, one of which is that you have a straight neck. And the way to check that is to look right down the neck, and you can see whether there's any warp there at all. It'll look straight or it'll look warped. Let's hope it looks straight. It does. Another thing to check is the action, and the action is the distance from between the strings and the fingerboard, and the action should be fairly low. Not too low, but just low enough. And then you should check at the 12th fret for the octave. That's another thing to check. And that the nut is not too high. Here's the nut, all right. And mostly that it feels comfortable to you. It seems to me, and sounds right. But and that's why I often suggest renting before buying, because you really need to get the feel of several guitars. Here's another one. We talked about steel string guitars with narrow neck. Now, and the 12th fret is there, the 14th fret is at the neck on this guitar, but you might enjoy the narrow fingerboard. I want to show you how to change a string now, because in case you get into trouble and need to change a string, we're going to do that. I brought a string with me. I will change a nylon string on this guitar. You can buy strings by the set, or you can buy them one at a time. The 3 lowest, as I've told you, are nylon with steel, that are steel bound. And you unroll it, you unwrap it. I'm going to change a D string. And on this bridge, you put it through the hole. You'll see the hole there, and you just poke it through. make a nice sound? Oh, yes. All right. Now, the way you tie a knot on this kind of bridge, here you are, like that. You pull this underneath. Am I right in the ray? There. And you make that kind of knot. And then you can either roll it through just once, which seems to be on this guitar. Just poke it through once, like that, and pull. Or several times if you need to. Then you go down to the other end of the guitar and find which peg it belongs to. And you know that, don't you? Yes, you do, because you're very good. And you've learned the names of your strings. There's a hole at this end, too, which maybe we can see. And you poke it right through that, and you pull it, and hang on to it tight so it doesn't move. And then you turn the pegs. All right. Now, if you're going to change a whole set of strings, your arm is going to get, your wrist is going to be very tired. It's really an absolute drag. And so some wonderfully clever person invented a string winder so that you don't have to do that a million times, but you have this little gadget that does it for you. Isn't that nice? Okay, and you do that until it's in tune where you want it to be, which this one isn't. I'm not going to worry about it right now. There are several very good Woody Guthrie songs that you can do with the three chords that you know now, A, D, and E. Why don't you try that by ear on your own and practice changing strings if you need to, and I'll see you next time. Work very hard, all right? Bye-bye.